Hello everyone, we are the Group 2 from BSTM 2B and we're going to discuss about rights and duties. So before I proceed to the report, I'm going to introduce myself first. So my name is Aileen Lopez. I will report the part of 10 rights and duties, which is notion of rights, kinds of rights, and characteristic of rights. So rights are what we want others to do for us, whereas the duties are those acts which we should perform for others. Thus, a right comes with an obligation to show respect for the rights of others. The obligation that accompany rights are in the form of duties. Next is notion of right. Notion of right, they are possessed by individuals in the sense that they are permission and entitlements to do things which other person or which governments or authorities cannot infringe. So next is kind of rights. So the first kind of rights is natural right. This is based on natural law. These are not dependent on the law, custom, or beliefs of any particular culture or government, and therefore universal and inalienable. Example of that is the right to life, liberty, security, and property. Second is human right, are those based on human positive laws, either those enacted by the state or by religion. These are standards that recognize and protect the dignity of all human beings. Human rights govern how individual human beings live on society and with each other, as well as the relationship with the state of the obligation that the state have towards them. Example of that is the right to life. This right means that no one, including individuals and the government, can kill you, because it is the government's responsibility to protect human rights. They must create law that safeguards human life and protect you if your life is in danger. Next is the right to freedom of thought, religion, opinion, and expression. Everyone has the right to hold opinions, follow a religion, and change their beliefs. These apply to both individual practice or within community. Next, the third one is alienable or inalienable rights. Alienable rights are those which could be surrendered, renounced, or removed. However, inalienable rights are those which cannot be surrendered. So to make it simple, the adjective inalienable means something that can't be transferred to someone else, taken away, or denied. This item, right or principle, isn't alienable or able to be sold. These include the freedom of speech, assembly, and religion. However, alienable means transferable, uninterest. Its property is alienable if it may be conveyed by one party to another. Next is juridical and non-juridical rights. Juridical rights are those based on the law. These rights are to be respected, permitted, fulfilled as a matter of justice. Non-juridical rights are those based on virtue rather than strict justice. The right of a worker to a wage is juridical, but his right to a clothing allowance is non-juridical. Last part of kind of rights is right of jurisdiction. In the case of territorial rights, the central and fundamental right is the right of jurisdiction, which is the right to create and enforce law within the domain in question. To make it short, jurisdiction is the power to hear and determine cases of the general class to which the proceeding in question belong. Jurisdiction is the matter of substantive law. Next is characteristic of rights. First is coaction. The power of inherent rights to prevent their being violated and to exact redress for their unjust violation. It is a moral power attached to a right to enable it to exert the violence that is necessary for its defense. These apply to external rights only. So the second is the limitation. The natural limits or boundary beyond which is right may not be insisted without violating the right of another. These are the restrictions that are necessary to balance competing or conflicting rights or to harmonize rights with other public objectives. They are not a response to emergency situation. The third characteristic of rights is collision. A collision or car crash is the basis of virtually all car accidents. It is simple means that your car, truck, or vehicle hits some other object. Collision can be minor or very serious and may involve property damage, injuries, and even death. The most common collision we think of involve two vehicles hitting each other. This can include rear-end collision, head-on collision, and dozens of other types of motor vehicle accidents. However, not all collisions are a car hitting another car. Another common collisions include motor accident, car hitting a bicyclist or pedestrian, collision with semi-trucks, hitting road debris or an animal.
Civil and political rights. In democratic society, the individual person is assured of his civil and political rights. Civil rights are those enjoyed by person as private individuals in pursuit of their personal activities and their transaction with others. So in short, civil rights focuses on personal freedoms. The examples of personal freedoms is freedom of privacy and speech. On the other hand, political rights are those enjoyed by persons as citizens in their participation in government affairs. So in short, political rights is focusing on being part of the political system. These include voting and running for office. Next is the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is a list of the rights of the people. This is the list of our rights. These rights are protected and guaranteed, meaning these cannot be destructed or broken. It was adopted by the Philippine government in its constitution on February 2, 1987. To summarize the sections that is included in the Bill of Rights, it focuses on equality, due process, protection against unreasonable searches and seizures, no arrest without warrant, prohibition of torture, right to privacy, speedy trial, right to bail, rights of persons under investigation and accused, protection against self-incrimination, right to be informed of charges, right to confront witnesses, rights against double jeopardy, protection during martial law, equal protection before the law, right to legal assistance, presumption of innocence, access to courts, no increase in Supreme Court's appellate jurisdiction, and lastly, no titles of royalty or nobility. Economic, social, and cultural rights. It contributes to reducing poverty, inequality, and improving overall societal well-being. Emphasizing these rights is integral to achieving a more equitable and inclusive society. So, the economic, social, and cultural rights includes the rights of people to employment, education, and a sufficient living standard. It focuses on ensuring individuals' welfare, social security, and cultural participation, emphasizing fair access to resources and opportunities for all.
The meaning of duty, a moral or legal obligation. This is taken objectively as nothing we are bound to do or omit taken subjectively. It is a moral obligation incumbent upon a person to do, omit, or avoid something. Duty is a moral obligation because it depends upon free will of the subject person. And because duty is defined by law, any willful neglect of a duty makes a person accountable for such omission. Something that you have to do because it is the part of your job, or something that you feel is the right thing to do. Example is, it's your duty to do the assigned to specified tasks or functions. Correlation of rights and duties. A right comes with an obligation to show respect for the rights of others. Right and duty are correlative in a given person. One who has a right to something has the duty to act consistent with that right. For instances, the right to life of a person imposes upon himself the duty to work for sustaining such life. Pope John XXIII says, "The right of every person to life is correlative with the duty of living it becomingly, and his right to investigate the truth freely with the duty of seeking it and possessing it ever more completely and profoundly." A prevailing error is insisting that other people respect our rights while we ourselves do very little about our duty to act consistently with such rights. For example, we claim the right to freedom of expression or speech without fulfilling the prior duty of investigating the facts. Rights are what one wants others to do for him or her, whereas duties are those acts that one should perform for others. In order to enjoy a right properly, there is a need for other people to consider and respect it. In this way, we can say that enjoyment of right by one person grants duty on other person to respect it. For example, if this interest is not respected, then the person who disregards it is said to have committed a wrong. Reciprocity of rights and duties in interpersonal relationships. Rights and duties are reciprocal. The right of one person implies in other the duty to respect that right. Because Pedro has the right to live, other persons or agencies are duty bound not to harm him but to help him fulfill such right. Duties are expressed as laws. The command, "Thou shalt not steal," expressed in the Decalogue, enjoins us to respect the property of others and to omit such action as stealing. The command, "Honor your father and your mother," enjoins us to love and obey our parents and forbids such act as disrespect, disobedience, or animosity. The reciprocity of rights and duties imposes the same privilege and burden on all men. Thus, those who claim the right, yet altogether forget or neglect to carry out their respective duties are people who build with one hand and destroy with other hand. John 23, page 9. It argues that interpersonal rights against harm and rights to assistance are best understood as arising from reciprocity relations between moral agents. In interpersonal relationships, rights and duties are reciprocal. The right of one people implies in all others the duty to respect that right. Thus, the right of Pedro to life entails on all other persons the duty not to do him harm and help him instead fulfill such right.
Duties are moral commitments or obligations that people carry out in accordance with laws, customs, or moral principles. Duty can also be distinguished as having a personal meaning connected to one life values. So we have here all kinds of duties. So natural, individuals are obligated to fulfill their natural duties even in the absence of prior voluntary actions. In this sense, obligations are defined by the rules of just institutions or practices. So they are the result of voluntary actions and are owed to specific people. So we have our example of natural duties. We have the duty of kindness, duty of helpfulness, and duty of taking care of ourselves. So next is the positive duties. Positive duties compel those who carry them to take initiative and actively pursue objectives. So a problem is presented by positive duties grounded in human rights. So in general, they appear to be a reasonable means of upholding, also advancing and enabling human rights. So example, duty to vote, duty to pay taxes, and duty to observe traffic rules. So either natural or positive duties apply. Affirmative duties are those that call for an action to be taken. Example is loving our parents and making debt payments. And otherwise, duties are those that call for not doing something, like carrying a deadly weapon or not killing someone else. Next is exemption from duty. So every action has an exemption or clarification. So such decisions must essentially be based on these principles. For example, a taxi driver may not follow the speed limit unless he is rushing a passenger to the hospital. Similarly, a teacher may be unable to report to work because of a medical emergency. And next is conflicts of duties. Handling this competing obligation is difficult. And in order to find a solution, the worker might need to communicate well with their manager or fellow employees. So example, a worker could be assigned to finish a project within a tight time frame, yet concurrently they may be obligated to help a college facing an urgent issue. So basically, overall, the notion that human beings are not born equal has several interpretations. So it is imperative to acknowledge that equality encompasses a multitude of dimensions, so including but not limited to physical abilities, intellectual capacities, social status, and economic opportunities.